So this is Nikki Stiles Baker here tonight, and tonight I don't know where my co-host is. He went around the world, and I can't find him. So send me a shout out, put it in the chat if you have it, who you are, where you're calling from, where you're watching from, and I'm going to carry this thing on our own today, and I'm going to have a conversation with you about who, not how, which is the book I just finished. And we are sliding into talking about The Richest Man in Babylon. So tell me what's your name, where you're watching from, and have you read either of these two books? And I really want to focus today on the idea of multiplication, multiplying your effort, your energy, and how that affects our business and what we're working on. So let me shut that down a little bit. So I am Nikki Stiles Baker, recently published author of Side Hustle Glow Up. I see you, James. I see you, Miami in the house. Author of Side Hustle Glow Up, and those who know me, don't listen to me. Okay, we I decided to have these talks, and Rich is normally with me to talk. We've been starting off with books, but really it's just to make sure everybody could go further, farther, faster. The book I'm going to talk about today that I'm going to focus on is The Richest Man in Babylon. And I remember when I first heard about this book, I was like, Babylon, oh, that sounds dangerous, right? Because where I come from, we have a connotation of Babylon be the worst thing, right? The worst, most torturous, most just sinful place they can be, right? But Babylon is the place where currency began. And why is that important? So currency is something that we made to represent the value of something else, right? So before we had money, people bartered, right? So if I was a cattle owner, had chickens, we might trade. I might give you one cow for you give me 30 chicken. I don't know, right? But the point is, but what happens if I got the chickens ready to go and you can pick up the chickens? Hey, Lakeisha, see you, California in the house. We're talking about the richest man in Babylon. Okay, so why is this book important? Why do I think this book is important? As we continue to strive on our own journeys financially, we really got to think about our own mindset about money, right? So when I read this book for the first time, as well as a couple of other books like The Artist's Way, they really challenged some of my thoughts about money. And I discovered that I loved money just as much as I hated money. And what did that mean? So, we always hear you should not love money, right? But money is a tool. So do you love your hammer? I don't know. That's question. But we know we go to work every week or run our businesses constantly. So there is a desire for currency. So the currency is something that you can exchange a note, right? So again, if I give you, say I'm going to give you my cow, can you give me the 30 chickens today? You might say, okay, well, you owe me a cow later since I'm not able to move that cow. I'm going to give you this note, and this note is good for one cow. So now as we move into things like Bitcoin, are we really thinking about the value and the tool of money that we get to use? So I just finished today the who, not how. We were talking about who, not how last week, and we did give you a challenge. The challenge was to find at least one who that you really need in your life right now. So again, this idea of multiplying your efforts. And we talked about in the beginning of Who, Not How. It tells that story about Michael Jordan. He was MVP, but he played 6 seasons on the Bulls before ever seeing a championship. It wasn't until he began to actually see the results of the partnership with Pippen and with Rodman that he started to see championships. So in the same way, you might be the MVP in your family, on your team, but can you really win without other winners around you? So some of the ideas in The Richest Man in Babylon, because I know I'm kind of jumping back between Who, Not How and The Richest Man in Babylon, but some of the concepts in The Richest Man in Babylon also challenged me. Like one of them was, my purse stays lean, because basically I've been giving away all of my money. So it suggests and it recommends keeping 10% of those earnings for yourself. So whether that's from work or whatever you're doing, do you have, I hate to call it a stash, but a space, a place, an idea that you need to retain a portion of your money for yourself? Or all of your money, your tool, is given away to others? Because you worked for it, right? You worked for it. So why is it all given away? So if in a hypothetical world, let's say we made $100 this week. If we give away every $100, we have no seeds to grow new dollars with. So if somebody gave you a pack of sunflower seeds, you don't eat all of them. Keep at least one or two or a few to replant them. So this concept of multiplying, how do you quote unquote make money? Think of it as growing money. You can't grow it without a seed. So in this book, it compares, it says, make sure you maintain 1 penny on every dime that you make. That's 10%, or 10% of a dime on every dollar you make. Keep that for yourself. What you use it for, that's up to you, but that's for you. If there was no other motivation to maintain your money, or just to know you have something for that rainy day, what about you? So because some of us, in some of the books that I said, like The Artist's Way, it has you fill out a form on how you feel about money. So it says kind of like, well, my mother felt this way, blank, about money. My father would say money is blank. I think if I had more money, I would. But the whole point is trying to get you to think about and see if there are possibly any paradoxes in your thought and your behavior. So on one level, you're trying to make money, you started a business. On another level, you're throwing away all the way, or you're not reinvesting. So even if you're not throwing it away, I was reinvesting in my own business, but I really hadn't thought about what investing was. Hey, Dre from Miami. I really hadn't thought about what investing was. I wasn't taking any of the dollars from my business and growing them. So yes, I was doing community service, and I did a lot of things that made me feel good, that I tried to do anonymously. I did it. When I hit a point, I was like, God, I'm doing everything right. What is the problem? Is it that just certain people are not to have money? Is that the truth? And that wasn't something that was ever revealed to me. What's the truth? So I had to go. So this book talks about the principle. So I'm going to take a little bit in the beginning of the book, in case you never read it, but I'm hoping that my takeaways can help you. I do hope you'll go read it though. But it starts off with one guy who's two friends. One is a saddle, I guess a saddle maker, and one is a singer or a harp player. So one friend goes to another friend, and they had a very familiar conversation for me. And one friend goes to the other friend and says, hey, can I borrow some money? He said, borrow some money? You got all the money, right? As a matter of fact, everybody knows you all over town. So what he had really was fame. He didn't really have money. So he goes, I was just about to ask you for a loan. Now you come to me asking me for a loan. I really don't have it. If I had it, I would give you all of what I had. But for real, I just don't have it like that. And I was like, boy, that sounds familiar. How many times have you gone to a friend, family, to borrow money and go, man, I'm doing real bad, right? So where's the problem? So they live in Babylon, and what Babylon is believed to be by many is the first place to use currency. So that's why it's significant. In the first place where currency in this story was used, why were these two men in this situation where they needed to borrow money, and one friend couldn't even give a loan to his other friend? He just didn't have the means. So one friend goes, well, what about our friend that we went to school with? He's got all the money. As a matter of fact, he's the richest man in Babylon. Let's go see him. So the two friends go, yeah, let's go see him. Let's go find out what he's doing different than what we're doing. How did he become the richest? And why is it we can't even pay our own bills or give a friend a loan? So they go to see the richest man in Babylon. And so they go, hey, we went to school together. What's up? Why have you got all this money, right? What'd you do? And so he basically explains to them, he says, we all learn the lessons of success as little children. consistency, multiplication, some basic lessons. He says, I just followed the principles and you too have not. And so it's kind of touching because of the principles that he talks about in this book. And when we're really honest about the order that's required, not to get money, because we know we be getting money, right? We be getting money. But how do we maintain and how do we grow a part of our money? And it's not necessarily our fault if it's not our family history to have been able to teach that to us. But now we can read and we can share. So one of the great principles in here, they go to the rich guy and he goes, okay, I'll teach you all, but I want you to join. So he made a class of 100 teachers. He says, I will teach you, but I want you to make a pledge that you will go out and teach others to do the same. Right. So again, too, if you're not broke, well, you can't help your best friend, and you know, and you don't have money, you can even give the needy. What do you have to give but your word? So if you have your word, try to get as much information as you can, good information that can help someone else. So they say instead of giving the man the fish, teaching them how to fish for themselves. Right? Hold on, Rich is calling me. Rich, where you at? Okay, Rich hung up on me. So y'all, I want y'all to tell Rich he wrong when he come in here. But so he says, I want you all to at least acknowledge that when I teach you this, you will teach others, that you will not be greedy, that you and a part of that greed is why we got in this place. And so changing the very principle that is responsible for how you attain the money. So How talks about a lot about, like I said, like about Michael Jordan, people who really benefited from partnerships. You can't have a partnership unless you're willing to share. Hey, Chris Pomay. We're gonna be on Chris Pomay's show. Probably not pronouncing it the best, Chris, because you have a Canadian accent. With my Southern accent, I'm calling Chris Pomay. You guys make sure to find Chris. I'm gonna be on Chris's show on Monday, September 8th at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Some of y'all gonna be at work, some of you be on lunch break, some of you won't be doing any work. So you know where to find us here on Facebook Live at 2 p.m. on Monday. But to continue where I was with the richest man in Babylon, Rich is telling me his phone crashed. Okay. Hey, I see you blowing it up, Chris. So they go to the man. So he takes them to this class with a group of men. And the first thing he breaks down is, again, sometimes we are disrespectful of our money, again, because we've been taught that money was an evil thing. And for those who have had that mindset, we got to think back and remember that it was never said that the money was evil. It was the love of money that was evil, right? So if you put love of a physical, tangible piece of paper over that of a life, a human, an energy, I mean, I don't know. It just seems imbalanced to me. So the love of money. So again, if you had a hammer and you loved your hammer more than you love your child, or if you got a car, a Hummer, whatever, a Tesla, and you love that more than you love people or the person in need, right? Then maybe that is a problem. So I'm trying to bring it to. So he started these classes. So he says, think of each penny in your dime as a child, right? Think of every dime as a child. So you got $1, you would have 10 dimes in $1, right? So think of those dimes as your children. And think of the 10 pennies that the dimes would be as your grandchildren. So sometimes, just generally, we get a little like, I don't need that change. But at least think of how serious that is. If you only made $1 today, would you throw away a penny? Right? Some people in the world might only have made $1 today. So your regard and your respect for the tool is what's necessary. Are guns good or guns bad? It depends on how it's used. It's a tool, right? It's a tool that can protect. It's also a tool that can help get you food for dinner, right? Same as a knife. Is a knife good or bad? The virtue of a knife is to cut. Well, when you need to cut down a tree, you want it sharp as possible, right? But if you're being negligent with it, then that same tool becomes a weapon and then it's dangerous. So the same with money. If money is a tool, respect it for the power that it has, which is to be dangerous or beneficial. So we were talking a couple of weeks ago about helping people who are really in need in the world. And we can help. I've won a National Volunteer Award, but beyond all those hours put in, those people need money. You know, more than they need hugs and more than they need smiles, and that's nice. They also need money in many situations, whether that's for medication, medical treatment, real food, real clothes, real housing, real futures in this world where money is so important, seemingly. So I'm calling you all again to go further, farther, faster. So we're not having these talks for no reason. We're really having them to think about our own mindset. And then some of us, as we get older, we hit those days where we start getting frustrated about the fact that we don't have the money that we thought we would right now. And we go into shame and embarrassment, put on all these fronts and do a lot of things just to cover those feelings up. But it's okay. We all feel that. We were not taught to do otherwise. But we can pick up a couple of these books and just think about it, right? I can't tell you the answer. I'm not a financial advisor. Rich is not either. But we can just say from a humanistic point of view, these are some valuable thoughts. So some of the thoughts, let me go get into it now. Think of so again, on every dollar you make, consider putting aside 10% for yourself, right? Think of that as your seed. You might not need them right now, but you might need those seeds later, right? So put that 10% aside for yourself. It's also a great motivation. So sometimes, normally what a lot of us do is we pay the bills first. So you would pay 100% of your money to bills. I'm not saying don't pay your bills. What I'm saying is put 10% aside from you first and figure out the rest like you normally do. Okay? So I pulled up a comparison of Who Not How, which is a book I'm kind of in love with right now, and Richest Man in Babylon, which is a book I read a while ago. But they both have some very interesting points. So I looked at commonality. So instead of asking how I could do something, you should be asking who could help me achieve this. That's a concept in Who Not How. And if anybody did it, I want you to think I wrote down. So I have a personality test that I actually have real people take. And it's just one level. It's not the only tool I use to help me define who I want in my life or who needs to be in my life, whose values are aligned, but it helps me just another level of information. And guys, I want you guys to remember, we are living in the information age. Information is gold right now. Information is dollars right now. What you create right now, like Chris, is your intellectual property. This is your value that hopefully you build value in it, and hopefully you will multiply your value in it. But what is to come in the next few years, your information will be your gold, right? That's just like salt was one-time money. So the principle that they compared that with from the Who Not How was the Babylon, emphasizing asking advice from those who are more skilled and wise than us. So also too, learning to do graphic design on my own and running the business on my own. I have had, I don't know how many businesses incorporated, go way back, and I didn't know what the hell I was doing. Didn't know what the hell I was doing, but I didn't have anyone that I was clear that I could ask. So I really just had to learn a lot of things the hard way. But for today, at least wise enough, or God gave me a good enough common sense to ask someone who knows more than me. So if you haven't yet, start thinking about who is that person. So these are principles that both books agree with: the Who Not How and the Richest Man in Babylon. So one is find some who's, right? Then you get to multiply your efforts instead of trying to do everything yourself. And in the Who Not How, there's also something that they call an impact filter, which is helpful. So let's say you wanted to go partner with someone, you're afraid, you don't have enough money, but it's a very orderly one-page outline that helps you communicate, hey, I need you. You're the who that I need in my life. I don't have the money right now, but we will make the money, right? But just say it clearly, be transparent, and get it out and tell them, look, this is what we can make, but I need you to make it. That's sensible. So then again, you'd be back to like Michael Jordan. You MVP, but now you're winning championships. So that also connects with leverage other people's strengths. So the richest man in Babylon talks about learn to talk with money lenders and merchants. So learning to talk in those financial terms, and that's a theme that's been repeated in almost every book that we've read so far is financial intelligence, right? I remember my mom crying and said, "Oh my God, Nikki, I wish I knew more about money. I would have taught you." And I could see the pain that she had. She was hardworking. She just didn't have the financial literacy. And so it reminds me that my grandmother was able to leave property on a maid's income, 7 properties to be exact. So what happened from my grandmother's generation to my mother's generation that we were not able to continue to teach our generations about money? So something got lost. One thing the richest man in Babylon says that I really love, it says, wisdom will always be wisdom if it's real. Wisdom will never go out of style. So there's different questions. So, okay, he gets the 100 men together, and the 100 men, they're throwing out stuff like him, like, you know what, you're telling us the key to wealth is putting 10% aside for myself. That's it. And then he goes into things about being consistent, consistently do it. Consistent is that sauce, right? So just as we do it one time, we won't ever really see the benefit. But imagine being consistent. Imagine if you had put aside 10% of all the money you've ever made in your life. Imagine that being in an account that's growing interest. Imagine being able to leave that to whoever you wanted to leave it to, or just being able to use it however you wanted. But we just didn't know then. But if you know now, and you know better, you do better. Do better. Right? So that was one provoking thing that he said. So then they start saying to him, well, what about luck? Right? What about all those people who they're wealthy because of their luck? And so he kind of goes into Lady Luck is no friend, right? She comes and she leaves. Lady Luck doesn't hang around. He said, but he said, to those that are disciplined, Lady Luck shows up more often, right? So it's funny how, and Rich was saying this on the boot camp. He says, I would go out to lunch with millionaires and I pay for their lunch for the time to be able to talk to them. So poor people don't get their lunch paid for, but millionaires do, right? So in the same way, so is the millionaire lucky? Is that why he's getting his lunch paid for? Or is it because he earned the $1 million? And that's testament to most that whether you like him and he's a jerk or what, he stayed consistent with the principles of what caused him to attain or maintain that amount of money, right? And then somebody was talking to me today about, well, those people over there have generational wealth. I said, yeah, but you still got to maintain generational wealth. So it doesn't just fall out of the sky. I'm going to get my link together. If anybody wants to join me, you have to DM me and I'll send you the invitation. So he talks about luck, and just like luck is not your friend. And luck doesn't last long. Okay, so you win the lottery. I mean, literally, it's easy to spend $1 million in 1 year, right? I was looking at some houses today in one of the better neighborhoods here, and they were like about 3, 4, 8 million. And I was like, oh, they don't have Miami. You're looking at $300 million condos, oceanside. So, what one thinks is money, I guess it's just what they say is depends on what you think. Like I said, I like that other concept of wisdom never goes out of style, right? So 10% for yourself. If you tithe, that's wonderful. If you are paying all your bills on time, that's wonderful. If you're giving to the needy, that's wonderful. but you should be included in that effort of who are you doing it for, right? And especially with women, you giving to your kids, your spouse, your partner, your friends, your neighbors, your girlfriend, for everybody, and then you turn around and there's nothing for you, right? So if nobody told you, this is just a good time to think about what about you, right? God don't want you to be without either. So let's see what else we talk about. Stewardship and accountability. Again, that's just being respectfully. We've been blessed. I mean, I remember Reverend Bailey telling me, like, Nikki, like, Americans don't really know what poverty is. They just really don't have a clue. I'm like, well, maybe you're right. We really don't. Right? Whenever was the day of your life that you couldn't afford sugar, which is a luxury. You don't need sugar. You know, what is the day of your life where there wasn't a car or a machine available for you to jump in to go towards and get to work? I never experienced that. I mean, there's some things that I know people have experienced in the US that I never experienced. So maybe I am fortunate. So what I ask you is, what will you do with your fortune? So I know some of you laughed when I said, well, what about if somebody only made $100 this year? Or maybe somebody only really made $100 this year. So what is your stewardship over what you have? So I want you to think about it. So then he talks about so luck, let's not talk about luck. So when you see other people doing well financially, you know, try to put that, if you got an attitude, put it in check, you know. It's not their fault. That maybe their family, ancestors, somebody set up a legacy that they understood about money. But the principles don't change no matter who is for. So just like the law, it applies to all people. Hey, Rebecca. Hey, Phoenix. She said, it's true. I stay telling people to stop saying they're starving. No, you're hungry. Right. I agree. I agree with that. There's been days maybe you're not eating what you want to eat, but we eat so much junk anyway. But you know, so just to say, are you being a good steward over what you have? So I want to go back to this concept of investment. So if that 10% that you're keeping for yourself, if I had known, if anybody had told me in my younger years from my first business, take 10% of that and invest it somewhere else. It wasn't until my mother passed away, it was the first time I had enough money that I thought, okay, now I can invest. And I just didn't know any better. So it's, you know, we get ashamed to say that we don't know. So again, I thought this whole class of 100 was an idea. So I want y'all to keep up with me, because I definitely want to start a class, and I will make the goal be 100 people, 100 people dedicated to learning financial principles and teaching each other and making sure that those in need understand these same principles. That's it. So hopefully, you know, you can make some kind of financial benefit out of it. But if nothing else, this would be a wonderful way to be able to give back to others. Never go without a meal, even if it's just some chips and honey bun. Okay, I feel you. I don't like honey bun. Who is that putting all those hearts? Okay, so but I mean, you know, I don't know, but there's some people who really are not making a lot of money. So some other, protect your wealth, be prudent. This one about own your home, I don't know about it, but it's based on, they gave me all these biblical scriptures too, like scripture. By wisdom a house is built, and through understanding it is established. So it says that basically the principle here is stability. So that too, I made in peaks and valleys, money within in my life. And we all have, and most of the millionaires and people who are self-made, we hear about the bankruptcies. It's just a thing. It happens, right? An entrepreneur is a person who's taking their own money and risking it on other levels. Sometimes, guess what? The risk doesn't go well. But fortunately, over time, you learn, you do better. And over time, your understanding is established. As this scripture says, your wisdom is established. So if you want the scripture, if you're biblical about it, it says, my wisdom, a house is built. By wisdom, a house is built. And through understanding, it is established. That's Proverbs 24, verse 3. So trying to get some stability. So again, I was able to see in my upbringing money, but our family had not figured out the process to pass it on to the next generation. And so what I challenge you, whether it is your own family or whether it's the community you are in, will we be able to pass it down a system that works, right? A system that is meaningful, a system that is purposeful to the people you love, whoever that is. So, and then one of the final ones that this comes up in every book when we read Who Moved My Cheese, when we talked about the greatest salesman in the world, talk about this one theme keeps coming up in all these books is, the Rich Dad Poor Dad, keep on learning. So when I started these talks, Richard and I thought that this was a good place to start talking about the books, because we both like to read. Oh, that was another good quote that came from Who Not How. He says, I'm so thankful that my mother taught me that reading was more important than going to school. Now, I'm not telling nobody to drop out of school. What I'm saying is school is there and it has a structure and a program and a curriculum meant to train you especially if it's public school in America, at the minimum basis. It's like government assistance on any level. You're going to get the basics, right? But reading allows you freedom to generate and articulate these thoughts as you like, and to go anywhere in life and in the world from this information as you like. And that's why historically you had libraries be damaged and burned down. So what does that mean now as we go into this information age, where most people don't have books anymore? I still retain a few. Oh yeah, in my advice, if you got books, lock them up and keep them, because they'll be gold too in the next 5 years. They'll be gold, because soon we won't have paper money, we won't have books. So lock those books up for proof, right? Because we don't know, AI might take a left turn and tell us everything wrong. So have your books as receipts. Keep those, that's information. But again, we are in the information age. So let me see if I got anybody in my DM. I will drop you the link if you want to come on. I see Christoph. Hey. I'm just gonna put I don't know if I'm gonna get in trouble for this. Just try it. I already done got in trouble. already got in trouble with Facebook for promoting the but if I don't know you, I'm not gonna let you in. That's all. I can't just let anybody in here. So Rich he couldn't come on with me tonight, so I'll play my own music and see if anybody want to come on and talk to me. We are at 6:36. I got about 15 minutes to invite some friends in. So I'm gonna do that. If you want to come on and talk about any of the principles that I've been talking about tonight, the richest man in Babylon, or Who Not How, tell me about, hey, there's something you need. I do need somebody. I am looking for an apprentice, someone who will be comfortable with me teaching them everything I know regarding design and project management, and I need some help. So if they are interested in that, DM me on that. I'll teach you everything I know. And in exchange, I'm looking for someone who can be my hero. So when I am planning my courses, my talks, I need to know that it's meaningful, digestible. And then I just want someone with the capacity to go out and do the same, teach other people. So if that's you and you into that kind of thing on a Friday night, we talking about books, we talking about Richest Man in Babylon, and Who Not How. Give me your comments in the chat. I think that's how I got in trouble. Facebook told me, don't tell people what to do. And I'm like, I'm the boot camp bully. Y'all can't tell me what to tell people. I'm gonna tell them what I want to tell them. And you see my hair going gray. I said, okay, we just gonna let it do what it do. All right, let's see what's going on. Let me look at my DM. Let me see what y'all got in the chat. Thank you for joining me tonight. And I was also told that everybody prefers my car videos. Guess what? Y'all don't like it when I put on makeup. So I'm gonna do more talks in the car. If you're reading anything, like I said, one of my biggest takeaways is what are you learning right now? Are you learning anything? Are we all just distracted by what's going on in this social media space? Are we continuing to do learning? Or that's just old school? People don't do that no more. I use AI a lot, but tell me, how are you using AI to take it to the next level? So I want you, if you're not yet thinking about writing software, applications, programs, because again, if you can do this through AI, with AI, you can start writing your own app. This is another thing I'd like to talk about. Even at bare minimum, you can write a book, right? You own the intellectual right to your book. Everyone has had something happen in their life that they are a professional on. So the book that I just recently published is actually my second book. I've had some poetry, some previous books, but it's so easy now. So I'm like, look, I'm about to do another one. Okay. I'm just gonna keep doing books. I'm just gonna keep doing videos. I'm gonna populate the other other platforms that we use. So I mean, I guess don't nobody want to come on with me. So I'm just gonna continue talking out of depth. So let me hear it one time. All right, so I know we had some guests in the house. We had Butterfly, also known as the new Phoenix. We got Chris Pomay. We had Dre, Lakeisha. Thank you guys for coming. So I'm gonna continue a little bit on the who, not how. That book, it got me so excited. I didn't really, I was listening to it on audio, so I didn't really, personally, I didn't care for the reader's voice, wasn't doing it for me. But it said some things towards the end that were really helpful and just had me thinking right now. And back to the who, not how, like this, it just was a reminder. There's not, I was angry about my level of money because I thought I had done everything right. And I thought, I did it all by myself, which one, that wasn't true either. And there were many good people who have worked with me, given me opportunities, taught me. And, you know, my anger, my ego, my shame to admit that I didn't come from a family that we just naturally knew about money. And we lived in this, I'm from the 90s, you know, when everybody like, you gotta look good. You know what I'm saying? But it's not all real, right? And so now we live in a society where realness is valued, right? More women now have their natural hair, right? They're loving on themselves. And you know, I even see a trend where celebrities are trying to look more normal, right? This guy from Google with all the money in the Shark Tank, sorry, my nose is itching. They looking like regular people, normal people. So if the normal people have an advantage, are we already normal, right? So make your normal be your niche. Nobody else can touch that. Phoenix, nobody else. Nobody else can look like you. Nobody else can talk like you. So do you to the 300, right? Dre, I know you an artist too. We got the artist way coming up, but ooh, my nose is itching for no reason. I'm so sorry. Chris, there will never be another you. Chris Pomay, this we don't get the wrong Chris this time. There will never be another you. And so I want to give you that. That is your goal. So for all the hours that you put in, all the thought that you put in, keep 10% for you. It's only, I don't care what builders do. Put 10% aside somewhere for you and watch it grow. And then when you have enough, take it and reinvest it. And take 10% of that, put it back in the pot. So there's a pot that you just don't touch. That's like the emergency break glass pot, okay? But keep at least one or a few seeds that you can grow more. So in this case, that's 10 seeds on every dollar. You can do that. We can do that. That's such a simple principle. It's not complex, But like I said, oh, the other thing, this hit me when I was reading this concept of multiplying. And I see in school, I remember telling people this. See, first in school, you learn addition, right? But this is American public school, Chris. But we learn addition first, then you learn subtraction. Now, after you learn addition and subtraction, and you think you're doing good, they hit you with multiplication, right? And then after multiplication, they hit you with division. You're like, okay, you know, if you were like me, it wasn't impossible, but it was more challenging. But I remember with the multiplication, we learned where I'm from, we learned multiplications about 5th grade. And they gave you this chart thing. 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 2 is 2. And you get the 1s, 2s, 3s, all the way down to 12 times 12 is 144. Oh, it was like hell learning the multiplication tables. And so, you know, some people's tradition was you just had to memorize them. That's it. That there was no other answer. Memorize multiplication tables, and that's the only way you were going to know them. So I didn't memorize them. Okay, what I did, I memorized the 1, 2, 3. Wait, I don't know about the 3. The 3s was tricky. The 4s was tricky. 1s and 2s is easy. 3s and 4s was tricky. 5s were easy. And then 10s were easy. 11s was kind of easy. But everything else in the middle, I'm like, we got problems. So when we took tests, I would count the fingers over and over. So let's say it was, even though I knew my 5s, but 5 times 5, I knew I'd go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. And I had to go that whole long route. So my shame, my frustration for how I dealt, whenever I started hearing about percentages, I just went left. So I'm just saying it because I know a lot of other people won't say it. So I'll just be the idiot here. However, not the idiot, but you know, I think I'm ADHD, but that's just where it is. But what I'm saying is, we all have shortcomings. And again, that's where the wisdom and the brilliance is. There's always somebody in the world who is available, who knows more than you. So don't be so egotistical. Don't let your shame cause you to not get help. Okay, whatever that is. If it's a bad habit, help. You trying to lose weight, and you're like, oh, I know what to do. I can do it. No, you don't, because if you knew what to do, you would have already done it, right? So let's stop playing games. And again, that's where we go further, farther, faster. In the spiritual world, in a world of wisdom and limitless information, whatever we have done, we are now in a predicament where we can go further than we have in the past because we know better. We know better how to build a community of like-minded people, right? We got communities on Facebook. We community it all out. But what are we doing with the community? So if we're not trying to transfer some useful information, then what are we doing here? What are we doing? All right. So I'll challenge you to go further, faster. If you did do the challenge from last week, if you did reach out to someone, or you even just thought about who do I need to reach out to, let me know in the chat. Let me see what else. So we did have our boot camp this past Saturday. I had about 25 participants. I was really happy about that, especially since it was our first time. And I'm trying to look at it again gratefully with the same theories from, if I can take 10% of that and I can learn, then I know that in the future I can scale that and improve. So in the same way, we have to start thinking in that mindset of, oh, you got a question, ask the question in the chat, please. I'm gonna put a heart. If I'm a little bit rude, I'm sorry. I'm ADHD, blame it on that. So, I'm wanting us to lean on wisdom. I remember another thing my mom used to say when I was a kid, and it's a horrible thing to say, but if you want to hide something from somebody, hide it in a book. So today, you know, we still call things books, but it's just information. You watching the video right now is intake of information. If you take it in, you're the consumer, right? You're eating it. If you're making it, you're the producer, right? So I want you all to consider what information you're taking in and what kind of information are you producing. So when you do just the smallest thing, a post on your Facebook page, what are you posting? Are you posting anger? What are you really bringing to somebody who is less fortunate? I mean, I'm not saying it's your job to bring everybody a smile every day, but what are you consciously doing? Right? What if this is your time to promote, to make money, sell a book, sell a class, sell you as a speaker? Okay, then use your time wisely. Respect your time because, like we talked about last week too, you can get your dollars back, but you can't get your hours back. Oh, if I could get my hours back, ooh, what I would do. But we cannot. So so like the greatest salesman in the world, he said, you to the slave. He said, you think about, he says, you think about something the day ahead of you. He says, I only think of my last. So if we really thought of this as possibly being our last day, what would we be doing differently, right? If I knew this was my last day, if I knew that at 10 p.m. tonight, 12 midnight, it was over, would I waste my time arguing with, or would I take that 10% that I saved of my money and finally enjoy it for myself, right? Or give it to my child, or give it to a friend, or give it to someone in need. But I wouldn't be wasting my time cursing somebody out who didn't even deserve my glance. So fortunately, with wisdom, these are some things that come to you when your hair start turning. That's great, right? But that your time is also your gold. It's also your dollars. Make sure you retain 10% of that with yourself. I've been joking with Chris recently just about, lack of sleep, and I was drinking Red Bulls like crazy. You will be happy to know I've been Red Bull free for 4 whole days. So I'm celebrating the month of September, my mom's birthday. So she did not like me doing the Red Bull. So I'm calming down for a minute. And y'all can hold me accountable. Next month, I intend to continue to stay quit. Okay? But in the meantime, I want you all to think about how you are, what kind of steward you are over what you have, and how you will take 10% of what, let's say you got no dollars. Let's say you got $0, right? But you got a whole lot of charisma, right? You got a whole lot of talent, and parlaying that into whatever it is you need, whether that be business, exposure. You know somebody right now who can figure out the how that you've been trying to figure out. But because you insist, back to the who, not how, this is because you insist on doing it yourself, as many public schools taught us to do. They taught us if you get someone to help you, that's considered cheating. So you have to figure out how to do everything yourself. And so I'm looking at adults over here trying to do everything themselves. In the case, like, I'm probably the most technological person I know in my circle of friends. And when I watch somebody who has far less technical ability than me, and I'm trying to get them advice and they continuously reject it, it's sad to watch. Like, ooh, that's like, I'm here to help you. I want to help you. And you still over here messing up and sabotaging yourself because you insist that if your brain didn't come up with the answer, that it cannot be right. That's sad. Even if you're doing that, I want you to check that. But do know that there is someone that you can put your hands on that has the answer to how you need to do whatever it is you need to do right now. So again, like Michael Jordan was is the superb athlete in person, but he needed some other who's who could take him all the way to championship. So I want you to think about who are the who's in your world that can take you to that championship, whatever it is. And we all got different, our championships look different, right? But we want to get them rings like Phil Jackson, right? So I guess there's nobody wanted to come on the Zoom with me. If you have any questions, drop it in the chat for me and I'll address questions. If not, I'm gonna play my music for a minute and I'll go in another direction. All right, all right. Learn about myself. Okay. Stop doing it all by yourself. Leverage other people's strengths. Multiply results through collaboration. So there's that multiplication again. So whether you great at multiplication or not, sit down and think about how your efforts can easily be freed up. Your time can be freed up. So I'm like, I need to be sending proposals the way I used to send invoices, right? Because by the time I send an invoice and the company taking a week or 2 or 3 to pay me, broke. So instead of me sending invoices all day, I need somebody else to deal with the invoices, and I need to be working on proposals and contracts or agreements all day, right? Because it's again, we're not learning. I just put on my Facebook the other day, let my learning be greater than my experiences. That's from Who Not How. Because I used to say, well, I got experience in the music business and in government and design and nonprofit, blah 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 blah. Yeah, but what did you learn? So again, that I think that comes from, for me, maybe came from shame, trying to validate myself or trying to reflect what I thought other people would thought validated me. And I hope if you find yourself in that position, you flee from that behavior. Flee from that behavior and go to, what did I learn? And that's why in the free branding guide, if you don't have the free branding guide yet, you can go to my website and get it, www.superflyers.biz. In the free branding guide, I call it Side Hustle Glow Up. I'm trying to help you think about what you learn from your life experiences as you consider what your values are as you do as you think about your personal branding, right? So if you're going to brand something, back in the day, the brand came from when they would brand the cow to make sure it was their cow in case somebody stole a cow. Like, no, that's my cow. I know it's my cow. How do you know it's your cow? Because it's got my brand on it, right? My beef is better than your beef, right? Your animals got lice and stuff on them. I don't know, bugs. I look at my cow. It look good. It got shiny fur. That's a good cow there. Well, how you know? Because it's got my brand on it. So imagine you had to make that big metal brand and they get hot and burn the cow. Just the thought in shaping that thing. You would want to put some thought into it because you can't keep making a different one every week, right? You're gonna make one brand that means you, and everywhere anybody goes, now they're just not gonna see it, they're gonna feel it, right? They're gonna know wherever they see Phoenix, we get this experience. This is what we think about. This is what we feel. So in the same way, so put this thought into your brain. So anyway, when I went through my branding, and I tell a story that stands out from your life. And I know that's hard for a lot of people, but like none of this is gonna work if you're not willing to be honest with yourself, because other people can tell when you lie. So I'm saying, don't tell all your business, but get your stories together, right? So think about what has happened in your life, the things that really stand out to you, and then think about what did you learn from that experience, good or bad. So, like I said, I told a story a couple of weeks ago where I was actually physically assaulted in a situation. It taught me how to be safe, right? Did I want to go through that at that time? No, but did I survive it? Yes. And what did I learn? My mama said I got to be more careful. I learned to better read the room. I learned to watch my surroundings. I mean, it's not 100%, but it helped a bit. So the time that it takes, think of that 10 cents that you put away on every dollar is 10 minutes. Do you have 10 minutes a day for yourself? Do you journal 10 minutes a day? Do you meditate? Do you pray for 10 minutes a day? Do you exercise? Do you do anything good for you for 10 minutes a day? So think of that same 10 cents on the dollar or penny on the dime. Are you loving you? Because if you're saying you want to have a loving relationship with somebody else, how can you do that with someone else when you don't have a loving relationship with yourself? I'm not talking to you, but I'm saying that's what I had to ask myself. How can I have a loving relationship with somebody else when I'm clearly not loving myself? I love everybody else, but not myself. People can see through that. And if you may believe that with all your heart, others can see better. They can see that there's something wrong with that scenario. So I'm at 6:58. I'm gonna start getting ready to wrap up and get my music on. I'll go find out where Rich is tonight. I hope he's safe. I hope he's well. And glad that I was able to talk you all to death tonight. And look forward to seeing you next week. Don't forget, go over to supplies.biz and get that. I'll put it in the chat. Get that free branding guide. It's called I'm mixing up my book now. The book is Side Hustle Glow Up. You can get that on Amazon, but the branding guide is Slay the Brand Game. And this is about how to improve your personal branding. It's a great starting place before you get into your business branding, but they are related, right? Because again, your brand is what people say about you when you're not known. So what is the brand at your brand? So thank you for all of you that hung out with me tonight on a Friday. Just got paid. And I'm gonna invest 10% back into myself. Hey. On Monday, I'll be on the Chris Pomade show right here on Facebook. Look for Chris Pomade, and he's on every other platform, but definitely right here. And that'll be 2 p.m. Eastern time on Monday. Chris is much better at answering questions than me and doing this technical thing. Ooh, that's in my heart. I can't see all of y'all. But thank you for hanging out with me. Go get the free branding guide. And if you help doing it, DM me. Don't DM me to call you because I'm not gonna call you. Okay? DM me what you need help with. I have other things to do. I'm gonna be babysitting y'all. But put 10% back into your own life. How about that? I mean, I don't think anybody can argue with that. And wisdom don't get old, baby. It just gets better. All right. Good night.